Well, I hope everyone was inspired and received more detail and more insight into what is trying to be accomplished with the Genesis mission. Clearly a lot, but there's a path, and there's an ability for us to come together to accomplish what Undersecretary Gill so eloquently demonstrated along with the other demonstrations. Today, we're lucky to be joined with the CTO of the United States, Dr. Ethan Klein. The Genesis mission has been said that it doesn't just represent a whole of DoE effort. As you saw with our interagency partners, it's a whole of government effort and truly a whole of country and with our international partners worldwide effort. So today, we will welcome Dr. Ethan Klein up to the stage here for a leadership panel that includes the Director of NIH, Dr. Bhattacharya, the NASA Administrator, Jared Isaacman, Undersecretary of War for Research and Development, Emil, and the Chief of Staff of the National Science Foundation, Brian Stone.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Okay. Come on up, Ethan. Thank you all for joining us.
You guys are all part of Genesis mission now, so everyone amongst family here. Well, first, just to everybody who's here, what an exciting day. I know you've already heard from Secretary Wright, from Undersecretary Gill, and Director Kratsios, but it's just been so incredible to see how far this mission has come over in truly in under a year. And I think one of the most exciting points that Director Kratsios had mentioned that we from the White House care about is to have, truly the entire federal R&D enterprise now a part of this Genesis mission. And so I just want to say a huge thank you to the Department of Energy on all of their incredible work to develop out this American science and security platform, and with this initial batch of national S&T challenges, which today we're so excited to see as an expanded set of S&T challenges that's really bringing to bear, the entire federal R&D budget, near $200 billion that we are moving towards this new era of AI-enabled scientific discovery. And with the announcement of over $5 billion today, I just want to give our panelists here an opportunity to first to speak to how their departments and agencies view the Genesis mission, the announcements that we have today, and then what they're most excited about. So with that, Jay, why don't you kick it off?
Well, first, Ethan, thanks for having me here, and thanks for allowing us to participate in biogenesis. I'm calling it biogenesis. It's Genesis, but I think the NIH is an incredible organization, and to watch it embrace AI in every aspect of what we do, from basic scientific discovery to clinical application to the design of randomized trials and mundane things that are like fundamental, like recruitment of patients, to solving pediatric cancer. All of this is so exciting, and the investments and the organization that's been put to this, the energy that's been put to this through Project Genesis, the collaboration with our DoE colleagues and with NSF and all the folks you see here, it's an absolutely, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I think I wrote some things up, so I might read them. So let me just say, we have amazing tools now that look to me like science fiction. That we can solve problems that were just completely insoluble before. Everyone knows about the protein structure, right? That's not yet a solved problem, but it's so much closer than I ever thought would be possible. But what about understanding how the genome works, how it interacts with the cells? Models of the cells so that we can better figure out what drugs are likely to work or not likely to work in human bodies. Things that we just couldn't imagine before we can do now. It's the collaboration with our agency colleagues, the focus on getting compute power at the hands of scientists readily without any
paperwork, if you have so many, there's always paperwork.
But there's a very, as little bureaucratic hassle as possible. It's a super exciting time to be alive. And I'm grateful for all of the folks at the NIH and for OSTP for making this possible.
Well, let me just add what Jay said. First of all, at the National Science Foundation, we are just very pleased to be part of this effort. People often ask, how do you work with the other agencies, or we should partner more? We are absolutely in lockstep with all the agencies here today. We have a tremendous relationship here with the DOE. I think they're pretty much one of our biggest federal partners. So when people say, how do you feel about working with DOE? We work with them every day, and this is going to be even better. So for 76 years, NSF has been focusing on foundational research. And Director Kratsios mentioned in his remarks, the Gold Age of Science document. And in there, you're going to see a lot of references to foundational science. That's what we do at the foundation. We support everything, basically every discipline from astronomy to zoology and everything in between. The thing that we're most excited about is the fact that anytime the government harnesses this kind of horsepower, I think the key thing when people ask me about the Genesis mission, I'm like, look, anytime we get this amount of horsepower together, we start pulling in the same direction, amazing things start to happen. That is, like, from a national security standpoint, from a productivity, economic standpoint, you can get government agencies working with the level of coordination that we're going to have on the Genesis mission, get out of the way and watch out. Because that's all of the significant events that we've had in the U.S. have, all the things that Dario was mentioning and the things that he talked about in his remarks. These significant events involve this level of deep coordination across federal agencies, and that's what we're on the edge of here, and that's what's so exciting. I'm sure we'll talk about what we're putting in, but like I said, we're just very happy to be here and really excited about the kinds of contributions that we're going to make and unlocking the science for the future.
Thanks for having me here, Ethan. The Department of War, people sometimes forget we're a department of 3.5 million employees, active duty, civilian, and we run schools, hospitals, military bases, people live on ships here, but really all kinds of different avenues where we gather data, we need intelligence, and we do so many things that being able to contribute to this mission gives us both a lot of things to contribute across all these dimensions, a lot of benefits to get, which is why we're able to do to contribute nearly $250 million just this year, and next year about $1.4 billion to the Genesis mission. So really big numbers that we're proud of, because we think the collaboration between DOE and Genesis and the Department of War is going to be so important. When you just think about things like quantum computing, biomanufacturing, dynamics, all the things that go into the variety of things we do at the department, quantum sensing data, you name it. There's so much we can do together. We also have a big compute initiative because of how AI is becoming more important in every facet of what we do from a war and defense standpoint. Combining that with what's being done for the energy is going to be one of the most synergistic, amazing things we can possibly do. And I'm really excited we're starting this term with this kind of energy and this kind of commitment from people up here. Thank you.
Well, first, just want to say how incredibly grateful I am at NASA for the Genesis mission. I think this is absolutely genius from President Trump, Director Kratsios, Dario, the Chief Technology Officer of the United States of America, bring this whole of government effort of which we would not be able to, at least at NASA, undertake and achieve many of the great scientific discoveries that are on the horizon without this capability, which is being possible without our budget. So being able to contribute in, for example, NASA, which we estimate over $100 million in the next few years, but combined with great investments from DoW across the scientific community in the nation, is very enabling. So I'll tell you two areas that I am extremely excited about. what we'll be able to do with the Genesis mission. For starting, what have we missed, and what are we likely to miss in the years ahead? To give you an example, just through archival data, NASA has accumulated enormous amounts of data. A teenager last year, I've seen some of the headlines on this, through NASA's archival data with off-the-shelf AI applications, discovered a new galaxy. Now, you would think that's something we probably shouldn't overlook. There happen to be over 2 trillion out there, so I guess it's not that unusual. But this problem, or perhaps opportunity, is only going to get bigger in the years ahead. For example, on August 30th, a Falcon Heavy will launch the nation's greatest exploration asset ever, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. To put this a little bit in perspective, we're talking about 100 times the field of view of the Hubble with 1,000 times the scan rate. Right? We're going to get an awful lot of data. And we were just talking actually before this started that when you combine Vera Rubin Observatory from National Science Foundation with the NEO Surveyor Telescope, we're going to be able to catalog potentially all of the dangerous asteroids in a very short period of time, which will give us opportunities for planetary protection missions in the future, which again is just incredibly exciting. So think about access to AI, what we may have missed, what we may learn in the future, answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask yet. And the second is when it comes to technological development. You know, you have an appreciation, it's hard actually to have an appreciation for the scale of our solar system, let alone the Milky Way galaxy around us in the universe, and to overcome that tyranny of distance in the pursuit of world-changing scientific breakthroughs. Right? We're going to have to leverage AI partnerships with DOE to advance new forms of propulsion. I mean, we are reaching the limits of chemical propulsion, which releases a negligible amount of energy and matter. So as we look to fission-based propulsion mechanisms or fusion, which is another obvious evolution of it before, which we're still talking about fractions of energy potential of matter before maybe we get to some of the really exotic stuff that help us pursue and extend our reach into other star systems. So all of these endeavors, which are really exciting to just talk about, and certainly in pursuit of the golden age of science and discovery, would be impossible for NASA to even dream of achieving without the Genesis mission. So just really grateful for the participation.
Well, thank you very much to all of our panelists. Maybe to follow up on Administrator Isaacman's point, to the other panelists here, are there specific challenges? We're up to now 33 challenges. That's an expanded set from the initial batch that were announced previously, both expansion of those original DOE challenges and also some new ones in there. So we're very excited to see what's to come there, and obviously for already beginning implementation on the initial batch of challenges. Are there any specific kind of topics that other panelists have raised that you're particularly excited about? I think something that is so incredibly exciting about the Genesis mission is the notion that this isn't just one single area of our society or scientific discovery that we're looking to apply AI to. This is across every area from health to education to energy to transportation. And so, maybe folks want to, just to speak a little bit to some of those particularly exciting bits of the larger portfolio.
Sure. One of the great frustrations of the biomedical sciences is that you have these fundamental biological discoveries, about the genome, about the cell, about living systems. But the time it takes from those fundamental discoveries to actually making a difference in the lives of patients is far too long. With AI, we have the capacity, and I'm today setting a goal of having that time, cutting that time in half between fundamental discovery and fundamental transformation of patient care. Some of the things I'm most excited about, we actually have 13 counts. We scaled it down to 6 because we're still going to do this, but just so you know the thing. We're going to advance our knowledge of predicting living systems. So we use AI to model, forecast the behavior of complex biological systems. This will just unlock drug discovery. Because you won't have to wait until you get the animal model results in. You'll be able to much more rapidly go through all of the potential sort of interventions in silico, and then to be able to make advances in living systems much faster. Scaling of American industry leadership. A major problem right now we have is that all of those great advances in in genetics applied genetics, it requires cell manufacturing. We in many ways ceded that leadership to the Chinese. We're going to invest using AI to bring home that kind of cell manufacturing technology. And it'll make an immediate difference in the lives of patients. Early detection of biological threats, that's a tremendously important application of AI and it needs a lot of work. I already mentioned pediatric cancer and accelerated drug discovery, clinical translation, and finally addressing the root causes of chronic disease. All of those are going to be accelerated with AI and these tools that DoE and the rest of our government has unlocked.
Well, let me start by saying we're just tremendously excited about the kind of portfolio of investments that we're going to be making. One of the biggest things that we've been doing for the past couple of years is we've been stewarding something called the National AI Research Resource, or the NARE. We work with DoE on that, and a lot of the other federal partners, with tremendous interest from the private community and foundations. We're very pleased that NARE is going to be providing support to some of these several hundred projects that DoE has announced today. That investment is allowing us to kind of bridge the gap and kickstart some of the things that are going to be taking place. So that's the first thing. Today we're going to announce 4 major initiatives that are coming out of NSF for Genesis. The first is we're going to be investing $380 million. Actually, it's probably well over 400 by the time we finish. So I'll say well over $400 million worth of programmable cloud labs. We're going to set up 20 test beds across the country to do discovery, to really accelerate the pace of discovery in everything from material science to chemistry. Again, we're laying these foundational investments that are going to let all the scientific disciplines that we support, which is literally everything, use that to massively accelerate the pace of discovery. So the things that, I like the fact that we were leading with the science here this morning in those 4 discussions. All the things that you heard on that are going to be replicated across every other discipline, and that's what we're going to be doing through these programmable cloud labs. The key thing is, we were involved very early on in things like, the internet. And NSF didn't invent the internet, we enabled universities and institutions to connect, and it was that connectivity that really catalyzed things, and that's exactly what we're doing with the Genesis mission right now. That's a point I think really needs to keep that in mind. We're creating the conditions for success that are going to drive us forward for the next 30 plus years. Just like we did before. This is the journey. We're about to hit the gas on this. The interesting thing, we're talking about these PCLs as we're coming down here today. One of the most important things about science is being able to share results. And like the golden age of science document talks about also celebrating negative results. Like what you learn from failure is extremely important. So again, our conversation was the faster you can fail and the more you can share that with other people, the less other people will have to duplicate your failure in order to succeed. So that's what this kind of connectivity is going to do. It's going to let people share their results, and then you can continue to build on that. And that's going to be a real force multiplier for us. The second investment that we're announcing is $80 million in infrastructure, and Michael talked a little bit about that in his remarks. We are going to be making investments in data infrastructure. So the hardware, the things that we're going to need to leverage the next part of our investment, which is over $100 million in AI data-ready data sets. We have hundreds. You can imagine through all the scientific disciplines. We need to do what we did with the protein data bank, which we invested in for 50 years, by the way. We need to do that across every discipline. So having data sets that you can trust and leverage, and then being able to have the infrastructure that you can unlock, I think is going to be extremely important. Then the last thing we're going to do, which with our NSF, we always do a Dear Colleague letter. So the last thing we'll do is a Dear Colleague letter. It's really going to encourage our research community to think about Genesis as they propose to all the other programs. So there's what we're doing specifically for Genesis, and then there's that connectivity across all the other fundamental research. We're going to encourage people to use the hardware and the opportunities that we're creating. So I'm really excited about that. I think we're, if you like what happened with the PDB and AlphaFold, just wait. There's going to be a lot more of that.
Wow, actually, there's a lot of people into the absolute data, so just put it right.
It was a team effort.
It was. What I'll add from the Department of War standpoint is we love this notion of challenges. DARPA's done, which is part of our team in R&D, DARPA's done challenges over time, and it's created this fantastic dynamic, encouraging people to both from a competitive spirit standpoint, but to really sort of set a goal out there that people can drive to that's not amorphous and has more tangibility to it. So we propose 7 challenges here for the Genesis mission, and we're not going to just set the challenges. We're going to bring in people and the data set, the expertise, world-class talent to it to really give it some oomph, along with the budget that we could provide. And I think there's I won't outline all 7, but there's a few we're particularly excited about, and we've had driven through the Office of OSTP from Kratos and from Ethan here. Quantum's been a big initiative overall across government that we talked about a couple of weeks ago in a big setting. But for us, the quantum discovery, so the quantum systems for discovery challenge, we're looking for the next foundational breakthrough. Quantum sensors are pretty limited by their fragility right now, so we want to use AI to manage the quantum noise and error correction in real time. If we could crack some of the basic science challenges through Genesis and this challenge, will really accelerate the transformation of quantum sensors and into applied use cases, like completely unjammable positioning, navigation, time, which is really important in the defense and war setting, given how crowded the electromagnetic space is, and when you see what happens when nations that didn't have these kinds of capabilities now all have them, to be able to block GPS, which is a very important tool for our warfighters. The second one is scaling biology, not quite the way that Jay's talking about it, but for our bioindustrial manufacturing challenge. How we use AI and bioreactors to create digital twins of organisms so we can manufacture our own advanced fuels, chemicals, and materials so we can secure our supply chain. Because we have a lot of weaknesses in our defense industrial base and the broader American supply chain because of our outsourcing and dependency in our adversary supply chains. You see that with critical minerals and lots of some of the other things I mentioned. And domesticating those, instead of trying to replicate the old methods that have been done before, how do we have new methods of doing it that are cheaper, cleaner, and give us more control over our supply chains. And those are the 2 I'm really excited about. Thanks for sort of catalyzing this with Genesis, because I think it forces some really good behaviors that are going to give this nation incredible benefit in the decades to come.
I think it's interesting that what you're hearing here is both from the foundational research all the way through the actual manufacturing and development of supply chains here in the United States. It's really a scientific discovery all the way through reindustrialization. Genesis is a way to catalyze an entire pipeline. One question for you, Administrator Isaacman. Before we saw some very inspirational videos that harken back to these national missions of old. And I welcome folks to take a look at the FY 2028 research and development priorities in science and golden age that Director Kratos alluded to. There's a lot of discussion there around these ambitious national science and technology missions. And the President has either signed out through executive orders. Obviously, NASA has been involved with many of those throughout its history. And I'd say even recent with Artemis 2, there's been this incredible excitement that we've just seen from across the globe with some of these ambitious challenges. You've announced obviously around space nuclear, around the lunar base. I think there's no more exciting topic. Certainly when I'm on social media or retweeting, that's really when folks get jazzed about seeing this excitement. How do you view kind of Genesis as playing a role in terms of some of these larger multi-year, multi-agency missions?
Yeah, and again, very, very appreciative for the cooperation because I can't think of any of the exciting missions that are on the horizon. And some way or another are not going to take advantage of this program. So we, as I described before, they fit generally in two broad challenge categories of, ensuring American space superiority, which in my mind is the technological development to extend American humanity's reach farther into space, of which certainly the moon base is step one on an exciting journey, and the other is just all of the data that we will inevitably gather and have already done so through past missions and making sure we don't miss another galaxy. And I would say that there's a lot that's going into it. First, I mean, it's hard enough to return astronauts to the surface of the moon. It's been more than a half century since we've been there, let alone establish humanity's first outpost on another world by building a moon base, of which the entire phase one over the next few years is just the science of survival, as we call it, because we don't know what will or won't work. So we're going to send a lot of missions with a lot of sensors to learn an awful lot. I mean, at this point, we don't know if we're going to have to be using some of our rovers just based on moon surface interactions from big landers, because what we're talking about landing today is very different than the Grumman 11 of decades past. Are we going to have to use our rovers to pave landing zones on the lunar surface itself? So generally speaking, everything about the architecture of the lunar base is one of the highest priority initiatives that we've included in the Genesis mission program challenges. And maybe just talk a little bit about some of the scientific missions itself that are being designed end-to-end with AI now. So Da Vinci is an exciting mission to the extreme atmospheric pressure environment of Venus coming up. And we're taking a little bit of what we've already had an opportunity to learn with incorporating AI into some of our Martian rovers, recognizing the transmission delays make it, not impossible, but not ideal to have a human in the loop at all times. And building that into a mission from the get-go, where AI, it's going to leverage onboard AI capabilities to decide where it needs to go and what information it needs to gather, and what from that it has gathered is most important to the scientific community to send back home before its life should end. And it's an entire end, but certainly I expect will be a model going forward. And then you brought up the world's first nuclear-powered interplanetary spaceship, SR-1 Freedom, that we look to launch in 2028, which we hope is the beginning of the, almost analogous nuclear Navy for NASA, which goes right to the heart of American space superiority, being able to reach out, beyond the limitations of chemical propulsion, in which case managing a reactor in that environment with 20-plus minute transmission delays is not optimal. So that will certainly be a component of our Genesis mission strategy, and more importantly, maybe even the evolution as we try and optimize mass and get to higher reactor temperatures and shed some of the football field size radiators that are initially required for that approach. So lots of exciting things that we would, as I said before, it would be impossible for us to even consider undertaking without this kind of partnership.
So, one thing, Brian, that you had mentioned in terms of foundational research and the idea of issuing this ECL, I think, a lot of folks in the room, know about, but this notion that that Genesis will be kind of integrated into so many core aspects of NSF's mission. So many of these different areas where scientific discoveries can lead to results and the applications that we're hearing here that are being solved under Genesis. There's an open question for the panel here, but where are there kind of opportunities for interagency collaboration as part of Genesis mission, whether in terms of infrastructure, the challenges themselves? So I think that's one thing for folks to note here across these expanded science and tech challenges, is that the vast majority of those there's no single agency that's involved. They really are all collaborative challenges that, since February, when we first had a convening of everyone here, and there's so much excitement around these missions, folks said, hey, we would love to work with you on that topic. So, just for folks on the panel here, where do you see those opportunities to create some of those new connections across the federal R&D agencies?
You're already seeing here, Ethan, the first thing, but I think the amazing thing for me about the project Genesis and OSTP's leadership in this has been we had a chance to convene the science and technology leaders across all the agencies of the government in one place and share ideas, share advances, share goals, and it's been so for instance the biogenesis mission of detecting biological threats, right? Working closely with folks across the government in this endeavor, because the knowledge for the data systems we have come from potentially from other parts of the government. The capacity to do the compute comes from biogenesis, from Genesis and DoE, from other parts of the government, as well as our own investments. It's this all of government approach, I think, is going to, this all of sort of R&D approach across the government, I think is going to be the pivotal thing that will make a difference in all of these amazing missions we're doing.
Yeah, I'd like to collaborate with Jared on anything cool he just said. But seriously, I think one of the things that is, one area that we all can definitely agree is important to all of this is the people aspect. We have to work together to create the workforce of the future that is going to be AI enabled, but AI literate. That's a big thing right now. What does it mean? We're going to have to develop the training and the opportunities for people to understand how do you harness this, because we serve a lot of the same communities. The people that work for all of you are the same people that we fund, and that's good. That means that people move across the research and development enterprise, but we really need to lean into the workforce piece and make sure that we're doing everything we can to make that American workforce is going to power this whole thing. The other opportunities, I think one of the things we're excited about at NSF is DoE in particular, and NASA, and NIH, you all bring these rich laboratory environments that have very specialized expertise. I think, for example, we can, and sorry, but if we want to work on things that have applications for the things that Emil mentioned, like precision navigation timing, or if there are things that have dual use applications, it's excellent to have that connectivity so that when we get it to a certain point, we can say, great, and now it goes over in there and it supports our national security missions. So anything that we can do to make it easier for people to transition from the private sector to universities to federal labs with that kind of seamless connectivity is going to be very, very important for us in the future. The other thing, and again, I'll just put it because all of us, I'm sure, read the R&D priorities memo at 10:30 last night. But the biggest thing is we have to create those opportunities for the early career workforce. The priorities memo, the Gold Major Science, talks about investing in individuals and having them have these kind of portable experience that they can bring across the enterprise. And I think it's going to be, it's our job to figure out how to do that, either through fellowships or opportunities to support people so that if you start out as an NSF researcher and you end up working in the Department of War, we all get a piece of that.
I just give a little historical opinion and then give you some ideas on cross-agency collaboration. When you think about the 20th century, it was more chronological in that we had our military strength, and there was some overlap here which led to our economic strength, which led to our technological strength in the late 20th century, where we really just zoomed out in all dimensions on technology across other countries all over the world. The 21st century is really technological dominance of strength is going to drive our military strength and drive our economic prosperity. And in an AI world where technologies, primarily or sort of rooted and catalyzed by these AI technologies, data is sort of the fuel for that AI technology, and that's federated across the whole world, but certainly across the government within our own departments. So breaking down those data silos, which is something that is trite at this point, I would say, but it's a real opportunity with Genesis to combine the data sets we have across as many domains as we can, and that'll feed AI, which will make our technological discovery process, incredible. We're the only country in the world that really has quite this sophisticated, diverse data sets that we can have across our agencies. If we can combine those, I think that's going to be a big win for us. And there's examples of where that can happen. In the near term, early detection of biological threats. There's no agency that has that mission right now. But if we have the Genesis platform, we can take data from HHS, from USDA, Department of War, Department of Energy. You can really sort of create a system where we're detecting anomalous biological signatures at speed and scale, which is also important because adversaries can use these models to create novel bio threats or novel chemical threats. So these are examples of just how history is changing and how we have to think is changing.
Maybe with respect to just cross-agency collaboration that leverages the Genesis mission, where that would be, I would say, examples are most applicable for some of the things we're pursuing with NASA. And this, again, with everyone, my colleagues on the stage and those that are here. I mean, soon in the very near future, that the limitation for human spaceflight won't be the technology for getting where we want to go, physiological and psychological limitations, of which certainly, while I mean artificial gravity has been featured in science fiction, which is not broken, the physics could be there. I would also take a pharmacological potential solution to some of the just degradation that happens in unique environment of microgravity, or for example with NSF, we already described it's a combination of NASA assets and the Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile that combined, along with, I would say, some substantial AI analysis down to the pixel level, will ensure that we don't go the way of the dinosaurs, which my understanding of planetary protection holds very well. Not to mention whether, you know, as I mentioned, the first nuclear-powered interplanetary spaceship, which should be the first of many as we inevitably pivot to what I hope to be nuclear NASA, requires extensive collaboration with the Department of Energy, and for sure, as we inevitably at NASA move out across the last great frontier into the ultimate high ground of space, we would not be able to do so without our colleagues at the Department of War, which, when you think about it, it's communication, observation, many things that are critically enabling to NASA's mission, certainly space domain awareness, even the specks of change at local velocities are very damaging to our mission. That collaboration with DoW is beyond critical. So, not just the AI technology itself and how we're economically contributing to it, but the unique expertise from all of those agencies comes together in this whole government effort. It's extremely enabling.
Amazing. So I know we started just a few minutes late. Just want to get off one last quick fire question to everyone on the panel, maybe starting with you, Administrator Isaacman, we've been working our way down. For so many of the folks in the room here, whether you're funded by government, from the industry and academia, from philanthropy, or you're looking to co-fund challenges, what is, just in a few very quick words, what should folks, outside of government be most looking forward to or excited about, your agency's participation, Genesis, and how that kind of relationship in public-private partnerships can look moving forward?
Sure. So I think actually a great example of it is a philanthropic effort. Eric Schmidt, for example, has made a very sizable contribution to planetary sciences, undertaking multiple projects right now between telescopes and actually a Mars mission that's on the horizon, and potentially even in the 2020 window. It's an example where NASA can provide some of the subject matter expertise to help with this is actually an example of NASA being what I consider a force multiplier for science, but that's just the start. So we can help them get the hardware and get it into the environment to conduct its science, but now again, all the data that it's going to collect, which will be well in excess of what any human can be able to analyze reasonably, be able to tap into the same platform that we're going to use to analyze Nancy Grace Roman, for example, or any of the other great exploration assets. So a good example for a public-private partnership that's helping us pursue the secret.
I would say that, besides the Genesis Mission Consortium itself, we've consolidated our innovation ecosystem at the Department of War. So we have the Defense Innovation Unit, we have our Chief Digital and AI Office, we have our Biotech Office, and all of these now are in a place that we've tried to make user-friendly instead of going through a normal contracting process. We've created these commercial solution openings. A normal contract that a normal organization or a normal person can actually get through with speed. And so those are the places to find opportunities at the Department of War that are linked into the Genesis mission. We're out there promoting them, talking about them, and making sure our leaders are out at places you all are at, so that we can talk about the next challenge. We're going to be announcing all these challenges, saying, hey, we're open for business, and here's the things we're looking at doing, so keep an eye out for those things.
Yeah, we can't do it without partnership. I mentioned the National AI Research Resource that has 34, 39 incorporated industry sponsors, philanthropies. We need industry and philanthropies to work with us to do this, all of us do. The programmable cloud labs I mentioned, that's going to be that's going to be synergized by a contribution from the STAR Institute. So you know, all of these activities that we're going to do are going to require partnerships. The piece where I think we're going to get the most leverage is as we start to do this, you'll get state and local authorities that will be excited about things that are happening in their states, and they will start to kind of pile in resources. I think we'll see some of you know, we have a regional innovation and energy program at NSF. We just announced 12 of those last week, 2 of them around critical minerals and a host of other topics, many of which are probably going to start connecting with Genesis mission activities. We put in $150 million and unlocked almost $2 billion worth of additional resources. So that's the kind of thing that we're all going to need to do to be able to meet the needs of the broader community through the Genesis mission. I think it's completely possible, and it's just a matter of building that momentum. The other piece is we don't want to be sustaining these things from the federal dollar forever. So we want to get them lit, we want to get them performing, and then we want to move on and start working on the next challenge.
At the NIH, we have 27 different institute centers. Every single institute center is all in on the Genesis Challenge. So what you're going to start to see is highlight the topics where people are going to encourage to apply for items related to Project Genesis. You're going to have opportunities for, especially for early career researchers in the audience and for small businesses. There are going to be opportunities to participate in research efforts. You know, all of the NIH is going to be part of the mission. We're going to be very public about these opportunities as they come out and go forward. But we don't just want this to sit in the traditional 5 universities or wherever they normally sit and go slow. We want to go fast on each one of these. And that's going to involve bringing in new researchers, private industry, all to participate in this amazing research mission.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for your partnership. We're excited to have you as part of the Genesis mission. We look forward to collaborating with you all and the Department of Energy on this expanded set of SAT challenges as we work to usher in a new era of AI-enabled scientific discovery. So thank you all very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now taking a brief break. Please plan to rejoin us in the ballroom promptly at 11:15.